Good evening. It is time to call Board of Education meeting 1575 to order. Dr. Lake, do we have any changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Andrew,
Second.
second by Megan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And at this time, I would like to invite our Truman Middle School parents, Mark and Claire, students, Mark and Claire, to come forward. Parents, you're more than welcome to come up too. Sorry about that. To lead us in our pledge this evening. So if you want to just come forward. And everyone else, if you could please stand.
And you guys can either stand and face the flag, or you can turn and face back there.
Thank you guys very much. And we are recognizing Truman Middle School this evening, and so I will turn it over to Dr. Mike Stratman, principal of Truman Middle School, to present our recognitions this evening.
All right. Thank you for having me here tonight to speak about students and staff at Truman. We're going to start with bringing up Miss Christina Cole. Christina, as many of you are aware, was our 2022 Lindbergh Teacher of the Year, St. Louis Region Teacher of the Year, and a state finalist for Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
Christina is in her 5th year at Truman, so she's made a big impact very quickly for us. She is one of the most reflective educators I know. Overall, amazing teacher. Her students love her. The student growth in the classroom has been above all else. Great with relationships, creates a positive staff culture in our school, as well as her classroom culture, which is really important to students. She's passionate, and she makes an enormous difference for us. So thank you, Christina. And just real quick, just because it's so important, who are you here with today?
That's my boyfriend, Sandy.
Awesome.
Sandy.
Thank you. All right. Next one I'm going to invite up is our 2022 Support Staff Person of the Year for Truman, Megan Reek. Megan is amazing. Since the day we hired her, she is our guidance secretary in the office. She also will do anything and everything we ask of her, which is really important because we have a lot going on in a middle school office each day, and she's always willing to jump in and help out. She's a team player. She's positive, welcoming, hardworking, takes initiative, all of the things you want her to be able to do. Also super efficient, which is important as well. And most of all, she loves creating relationships with fellow staff members and students. So thank you very much, Megan. And Megan, hold on. You don't get off the hook. Who are you here with today?
My husband, Kurt.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. All right, now we're really excited. Dr. Wright, would you come up as well? We are going to recognize our 2 Students of the Year now. This is really exciting for us each year. We get an opportunity to celebrate student success. The 2 we have representing us today have made a huge impact on Truman Middle School. They're both 8th graders. Unfortunately, they're both moving on to the high school for us. Thankfully for them, they're going to love that opportunity to move on to the high school, though. So we're going to start with Claire Butts. Claire, would you come up? So I asked all of Claire's teachers to give me 3 words that describe her. And so I'm going to read through some of those. Kind, respectful, intelligent, dedicated, leader, responsible, cheerful. You can tell by the smile on her face. Hardworking, compassionate, caring, sincere, and patient. And so you probably couldn't have better adjectives to describe someone. Just an awesome all-around kid. She's involved in so many things, choir, band, flight crew leader, all while maintaining an amazing work ethic and getting straight A's for us. So great job, Claire. We really appreciate you. We wanted to present something to Claire as well. So all of those awesome words people shared with her, if you can just show everybody. It's a little bit of word art, but describes everything about Claire in a nutshell. So, and it's actually in a staff musical note because she is musically talented. So thank you, Claire. Hold on, Claire. And you get to describe it.
That is really cool, but you're not supposed to show up the superintendent. See that? I got a T-shirt. You got that.
You gave me that earlier. Yeah.
What we have to do is a certificate recognizing you as student of the month. Congratulations. And then we have a T-shirt for you as well. So new one. You're the first one, or second group. There you go.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Hold on.
Claire, we gotta get a quick picture. I know
She's wanting to rush out of here, but she's going to describe all of her family here, too. All right, Claire. Can you tell us who's here with you?
Yes, I have both my grandparents here and my mom and dad and all my siblings.
Awesome. All right, our next student, Mark Meister. I also had Mark's teachers describe Mark in some simple words. And you'll hear a lot of consistencies here between the two of them, but kind, dedicated, respectful, analytical, proactive, leader, well-liked, calm, humble, hardworking, intelligent, funny, and honorable. So those are things that certainly Dr. Wright and I see in him as well as his teachers. So those are really awesome things as well, Mark. Mark leads by example. He gets along with everyone. I'm not sure he has an enemy. He is a great kid. He's in the drum line. He played basketball this year, jazz band, amazing work ethic. And I was talking to him about his performances just a minute ago before we started. And he said he's been in 13 concerts this year for Lindbergh. So needless to say, he's very involved and taking advantage of every opportunity. And Mark, we gave you the same. You are also musically talented, so we appreciate everything you do for us, Mark.
Mark, we have a certificate recognizing you as student of the month, so there's that for you, and then there's also a T-shirt for you as well. So congratulations. We're gonna get a quick picture. I'm gonna hang on to this, and now we're gonna want you to hold those two up there. I don't know if this is your sister out there, but when they said don't have any enemies, she kind of looked at her. Is that your sister? So I don't know.
All right, Mark, tell us who's with you.
My dad, my mom, and my 2 siblings, Anna and Libby.
All right. There we go. Yep. And I just want to thank both families for coming out today. It's not by accident that the kids were able to be here today. The amazing job you've done of raising your kids is something we appreciate. So thank you very much.
And then at this time, we usually take a short break. If people are here for the recognition portion of the meeting and would like to sneak out before we continue on with business, feel free. We will move on to 5.0 consent resolutions. We have two this evening. We have a resolution honoring Building Teachers of the Year and a resolution honoring Building Support Staff Persons of the Year. Do I have a motion to approve the consent resolutions as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Julia,
Second.
second by Andrew. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. 6.0 citizen communication regarding agenda items. There are none this evening. We will move on to 7.0 communications. 7.01 calendar of events. Ms. Vetter.
Thank you. Some district events for this month. I would say most importantly, next Friday, May 26th, is a half day and the last day of school. So happy summer, everyone. The district is closed on Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. The Lindbergh High School graduation is Tuesday, May 30th. Summer school classes begin Monday, June 5th. The district offices are closed on Fridays during the summer beginning on June 9th. And then we're back here on Thursday, June 15th for our regular Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. 7.02 report of meetings. Does anyone have any state, parent group, or other meetings to report that they attended in the last month?
I attended the parent group meeting yesterday. I think that was yesterday. So it was good to have end the year that way. And I also attended about, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 final concerts in the auditorium. And so I just want to give a little shout out to the Lindbergh Music Program. The band and the orchestra both do amazing things.
So I wasn't able to attend the orchestra night, but as I washed my dishes, and because we have technology, I put it on the counter and watched it via YouTube, and it was amazing. So that's what I did, and a couple other concerts. But anyway, just wanted to recognize those.
This isn't really a meeting per se, but yesterday I went with the Lindbergh Foundation to Crestwood Elementary for their last grant delivery. And they had such a successful year, and I think it's just amazing work that they're doing, and that the grants for teachers within the district totaled over $41,000 this year, and so that's incredible. And then also they had their silent auction last week, and that totaled over $9,000 for the district. So I just want to give a huge congratulations and thanks to Erica Keating, the director, and Andrea Porter, who also works for the foundation, and all of the volunteers that put so much work in to do such amazing things for our kids and for our district. So,
All along those same lines, not a meeting, but my daughter and all of her 5th grade LEAP friends that went to space camp this past week. I watched a group of very excited, some apprehensive students climb aboard 2 buses, and then a bunch of zombies come back off of it. But the pictures that the teachers shared and that everybody captured down there, and the experiences are just amazing, and it's such a neat opportunity for those kids. So I'm glad they got to do it. It was very cool.
Thank you. 7.03 announcements. We do have one this evening, and I would like to invite Mrs. Kate Keegan up to announce for us.
Well, I've made quite the impact here. I am Kate Keegan, the college and career counselor at the high school, and I have Erica Keating here with me, who will introduce herself.
I'm Erica Fenewald, and I am with St. Louis Community College. It's okay. I'm with St. Louis Community College, and I work on the dual credit and enrollment partnerships team.
And we are going to present these awards to the Board of Education. This year we were awarded the most dual credit students. We had over 374 students enrolled for dual credit, and many of those 374 students took multiple classes, so there were actually more classes taken. And we were also awarded the most money saved overall. So we saved over $1 million for our students. participating in the dual enrollment and dual credit programs with St. Louis Community College. So congratulations to our school. It's been a pleasure working with St. Louis Community College. Erica is amazing and have made this process seamless. So thank you, Erica.
Oh, yeah, thank you all for all you do as well.
Erica, just real quick, because I was at the celebration, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next closest to that $1 million was about 700 and some thousand, is that
Yeah,
right? So
yes.
even about $300,000 more than the next school. So great program. Kate does a great job. Something that you've really seen explode, the last 4 years or so, 5 years. So it's been good. So it's a great program, great partnership.
Sure, yeah.
All right, Ms. Vetter, are you ready for our upcoming Board of Education meeting agendas?
Yes. So again, we'll be back here Thursday, June 15th at 7 p.m. Some tentative agenda items include resolutions for the District Teacher of the Year, District Support Staff Person of the Year, and for the 2023 graduating class. Woo. Facility use rates for the 2023-24 school year, food service contract renewal, and transportation annual contract escalation. Approval of requests for the first readings from this evening and facility use rates. Regular business items, and then the early childhood education and central office are scheduled to be present for recognitions. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Colin, we're ready for our MSBA Board report.
Welcome to the May edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look at the issue of swatting and the calls that targeted numerous Missouri schools recently. Swatting calls are hoax phone calls that report serious crimes, attempting to fool emergency services into sending a SWAT team to respond to a supposed emergency. In late March, there were at least 9 such threats made to schools across Missouri in one day. John McDonald is the COO of the Council for School Safety Leadership and is recognized internationally as the architect of the Columbine High School Post-Tragedy Security and Emergency Management Plan. He says that dealing with swatting calls is complicated for many reasons.
Without a good emergency operation plan, schools really struggle in the knowledge of what do we do now? How do we manage this moment in time? And how do we effectively keep everybody safe and not shut schools down? And it's a challenge. It's one more threat that we're dealing with now. And as the AI, artificial intelligence issue continues to grow, we're going to see more of these type of threats. And we have to be prepared for that. We have to have the really honest, direct conversations about how we're going to manage that. And if you do that early and you tabletop these things, talk about it, walk through your process together, and make sure everybody knows what their role and responsibility is, you'll have the opportunity to manage these without necessarily closing your schools. Now, there's times when you'll have a threat that reaches such significance that you have to take action to immediately protect everybody and everything. And that's part of the learning that we'll do together over the course of the next year through CES, MSBA, and our partner districts all over the state of Missouri.
Regarding the importance of an emergency operations plan, don't forget that the deadline is approaching to sign up for your district's free Emergency Operations Plan Development Tool. MSBA, in partnership with the Department of Public Safety, is offering a subscription to the Mo EOP Development Tool at no cost for 2 years, but you must be signed up by June 1st of this year. There is no time element for completing emergency operations plans. The only time element is for participation, so please sign up now to take advantage of this crucial school safety resource. Visit the MSBA website for more information. MSBA's Summer Summit is set for June 16th and 17th in Branson. Join school board members and leaders from across Missouri to learn about emerging trends and hot topics in education. It's a great opportunity to participate in valuable sessions and to connect with your colleagues from school districts across the state. Summer Summit attendees will have the opportunity to hear a dynamic keynote speaker at the summit. Dr. Jacqueline Sanderlin, better known as Dr. Jackie, will be the featured speaker at the Summer Summit's general session breakfast at 8 a.m. on Saturday, June 17th. Dr. Jackie is an accomplished school principal who has become famous for her straightforward, why not attitude, which has led to dramatic improvements in some of Southern California's most under-resourced schools. Her passion for guiding young people has garnered national recognition.
Jackie, we were so impressed with your scholars and the work that you've done to turn the school around that the National Lacrosse League wanted to give you this check for $50,000.
Dr. Jackie's presentation will focus on the 5 C's: community, collaboration, capacity, connections, and creativity. Visit the MSBA website for more information about the Summer Summit. Also, be sure your board is represented at the June Delegate Assembly to be held in conjunction with the Summer Summit. Delegates will be electing state officers for the coming year at that meeting. The nominating committee is proposing a slate of officers for consideration, including the offices of President-elect and Vice President. You can watch video interviews with the candidates for state office posted on the MSBA website. And finally, keep an eye on MSBA's social media pages for good news stories about the amazing programs, students, and staff in public schools across Missouri. These stories are tagged with It's Our Why. May begins with a different Belcher Scholarship winner featured each day. Keep an eye out for your region's winner. These students are great reminders of why we do what we do. And with that, thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in June for the next MSBA Board Report.
Thank you, Colin. We will move on to 8.01 Cabinet Updates, and we will begin with Dr. McKinney.
Mine will be brief, as we did not meet in May, but we are scheduled to meet again in June.
Thank you. And Joelle?
Oh, shut it off. You did. Mine will be brief because I wasn't there, so I don't know if Julia wants to talk a little bit about it, but I know Dawn covered for me because I was off that day, and I heard it. She did very well. She was nervous about it. So thanks to the team that stood up with Scott and Dawn and presented, but they went over financial statements and...
That was really it. We just went over all the financial statements and talked about, I think, some construction things.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And Dr. Sparks?
Student life had already concluded prior to the last board meeting, so we wrapped up technology and teaching and learning board advisories. Recently, technology board advisory, we took the feedback from our elementary teachers so that we could start to design the elementary technology skills matrix, which basically says by the end of kindergarten, we want to make sure that students have these technology skills. By the end of first grade, we want to make sure they have these technology skills, so that we build a continuum of expectations for what our students can do in terms of working with hardware and software online. And then for teaching and learning, we reviewed the Teaching and Learning Compass document, which of course was part of our last board workshop, and then used that to really go back to our goals that we had this year as a Teaching and Learning Board Advisory, and find those areas that we didn't get to and reflect on those and how the feedback from the advisory could impact the work that we do in meeting the goals for next year. So we're really thankful to our participants who served 2 years and wrapped up their time on all of these board advisories.
Thank you. And we'll move on to our student report from Althea and Adam.
All right, so sorry guys, it's a bit of a doozy tonight, but our students are just so amazing that I wanted to share all the great work that they're doing. So to start us off with some school competitions and that kind of stuff and some honors, our Scholar Bowl team will be attending nationals on May 27th and 28th. They're one of only 300 teams in the entire nation to be given this honor, so that's super exciting for them. Our esports team recently attended the state competition. Our League of Legends team placed 4th, and our Valorant team placed 2nd after their undefeated season in the regionals, I think going 9-0, so that's amazing for them. Our solo and small ensemble competition, we had basically students who earn exemplary ratings at the regional level went to the state competition, I believe at Mizzou, or maybe it was Missouri State, I'm blanking on that one. But we had 26 students take home a gold rating, which is the highest honor possible, and then numerous others taking home silver and bronze as well. Our water polo team, so boys water polo finished 4th in their division this year with 5 individuals joining the all-state conference teams, and then our girls water polo also earned 4th, and it's super exciting because this is their first year as a team, so their coach, Miss Lauren Smith, was awarded Coach of the Year in the girls yellow conference, which is also super exciting since it's their first year. Track and field, they've earned numerous local and district awards. The girls team especially has been on a winning streak. They've won 1st with their last 2 conferences. Our ultimate Frisbee team has had tremendous success this season. Girls placed 3rd at state and boys placed 6th. And then 6 Lindbergh students were selected to play in the ultimate Frisbee all-star game at SLU High School this past weekend. And then finally, Miss Christina Cole, who you met earlier tonight, was selected as the first ever Coach of the Year for the girls division for her amazing work not only in our district but across St. Louis for raising support and collaboration in ultimate Frisbee. And then finally, our FBLA team at their state conference this year, in addition to the members who will be attending nationals, which I referenced in my last report, they earned state and national recognition as a Gold Chapter of the Year for their commitment to the FBLA ideals of service, education, and progress through the fundraisers and service projects they do throughout the year. And then they also received a special acknowledgement for their work with Governor Parsons in establishing an FBLA week at the state level. And then recently we had our Staffy student volleyball game in memory of Q. So on May 5th, Lindbergh Stuco organized a staff versus student volleyball game in remembrance of our dearly departed student Quentin Lewis this year. And then in addition to preserving his memory, they raised funds through admissions, concessions, and a blind auction for the Long Live Q scholarship in his honor. In other news, in terms of our creative arts, we have recently had a revival of our student art magazine, now named Apotheosis, for its commitment to preserving various written and visual work across the Lindbergh community. And then they are currently working on their spring edition, focused on reviving a culture of both community and creative expression at Lindbergh. For Asian Pacific Islander Month, our Asian Pacific Islander Coalition has been bringing attention to API history through various outreach methods, such as fundraising for the Very Asian Foundation, which works to shine a light on Asian experiences across the nation, an API Spirit Week with days like Flag Day, Wear Your Lucky Color Day, and Chinese Zodiac Day, and then informational social media posts and club meetings to raise awareness for API historical figures and communities in St. Louis. And then also recently we had our National Honor Society induction with nearly 100 new members joining the throngs, and these are all people who met of service, character, scholarship, and citizenship, which is all very important to NHS's goal of leadership within our local communities. And then, as we mentioned tonight, the dual credit, and in addition to that, we had numerous AP and IB exams. We had over 1,000 exams actually administered this year in a ton of areas like mechanical physics, which I personally can never do, but amazing for those students. So it's really exciting to see all of our Lindbergh students saving all that money, earning that college credit to just better their futures. And then finally, we saw the Department of the departure of our seniors this year, including Miss Althea, who will be leaving the board soon. So I would just like to quickly thank her for all the work she's done this year. She was amazing. I couldn't have done it without her, and I'm really excited to hang out with her over the summer. And yeah, so the class of 2024 has some really big shoes to fill, but I'm hopeful we can do it. Thank you.
9.0, action items by consent. We have action items by consent 9.01 to 9.10. Does anyone wish to remove any of these items for individual consideration? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve consent items 9.01 to 9.10?
So moved.
Motion by Matt.
Second.
Second by Christy. Does anyone have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to 10.0, individual action items. We have one this evening, 10.01, ELA adoption and purchase. Dr. Hamby and Dr. Valter will be making a presentation. However, to open discussion, do I have a motion to approve the adoption and purchase of Benchmark Advance for ELA grades K through 5?
So moved.
Motion by Andrew.
Second.
Second by Christy. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Hamby and Dr. Valter.
Thank you for having us here tonight. I thought we were going to get to make the big announcement, but you kind of stole our thunder there, Jen. So I was going to have a drum roll before that slide came up and everything. Thank you for having us. This has been 2 years in the making for us to decide on our ELA program that we would like to bring into Lindbergh schools. I'm going to let Dr. Valter take the next slide.
Right. We can't start this presentation without extending some gratitude to the teachers that were part of this process. We had over 40 teachers who signed on to pilot ELA programs for 1 year and ended up piloting ELA programs for 2 years. They put so much effort and thoughtfulness into it. Alongside them, our instructional coaches were learning 3 and 4 different programs to support them, and our literacy teaching assistants went in and seamlessly picked up different programs as we were piloting and worked just alongside them. So much gratitude to those teachers for their part of this process.
And I'd like to thank Dr. Valter because she has done an immense amount of work over the last 2 years to make sure that we can get to the point we're at tonight. And I'm sure she's watching at home, so I want to thank Rachel Sluneker also because, what you don't see is all these materials coming in for 5 different programs and having to get barcoded and out to the teachers and then things collected back up. So Rachel has done an amazing amount of work to get things done. And we've got a few of our instructional coaches back there, and Maureen Stabler's helped out with the process as well. So we thank everyone that has helped us to get to where we are this evening. Next slide, Colin. So you guys have seen this before. This is our timeline from back when we started in the spring of 2021. Summer of 2021, we looked at 11 total programs. We met over in the library at Sparing one summer morning, and we looked at 11 total programs. We narrowed that down to 5. We made our way through the initial pilot training. What happened, though, in October of 21 was when we made the decision to extend the pilot for another year because supply chain issues, we'll blame that, 2 of the programs, we didn't get the materials till it was almost November. So it really put those 2 at a disadvantage. We didn't think that was fair to do a decision that way. We wanted more valid data, so we did the second year. And that was probably the best thing that could have happened to us. I know it was a lot of work doing another year, but I really think it helped clear up what the right choice was as we went into this year. So I'm really glad that we did do the second year. Next slide, Colin. All right, so here are the 5 that lived into the second year. So at the primary level only, we have Amplify CKLA, we had Super Kids. K through 5, we had Benchmark Advance, and we had Collaborative Classroom. And then originally in the first year, we had American Reading Company, and that one wasn't working out, so we brought in Bookworms, intermediate only for the second year, just to have some more programs to look at. So these are all great programs. Honestly, we could have chosen any of them, and our kids would be successful, but we had to choose the one that we think is best for our Lindbergh students right now. And all the programs are comprehensive, so every single one of them includes phonemic awareness, phonics instruction, reading standards, writing, explicit grammar instruction, handwriting, everything's in there. So right now we're doing all those things, but we have 5 different programs to do those things. So now everything's going to be cohesive and comprehensive. Everything is very sequential and structured and explicit, and they all have everything a teacher needs. So there's, for the classroom teachers, it should take a great weight off of them and their planning. I don't have to go down to the guided reading library and find these books for these groups. No one should have to buy anything off teachers, pay teachers to supplement their instruction. They should have more than we could ever need to teach reading and writing at Lindbergh. Next slide.
All right, so this was a big decision. A lot went into it. A lot of different parts and pieces came together. We ultimately decided there were 4 big pieces of data that we wanted to look at. The first was program rubrics. We'll dive into that a little bit more later, but we invited each of our 5 vendors to complete a rubric, giving us some evidence of specific things that we were looking for in each program. We also brought in teachers for feedback. So the teachers who were piloting each got a half day of release time to come in, speak with us about the program. They came in by grade level so they could all hear what one another's programs offered. And they also completed a survey, giving as anonymous as you can be when there are only 2 of you piloting a program in a grade level. But they gave anonymous feedback on several different domains of their programs. We had observational feedback. We invited our LTAs, our literacy teaching assistants, our reading specialists, our EL specialists, our instructional design coaches, our MTSS director, Maureen, and Dr. Mason, our equity director, to give a lot of feedback as far as what they noticed when they were looking across students working with the different programs. And then our 4th piece of data was to look at student growth across the year from program to program. Next slide, Colin.
Additional considerations we had, what professional learning would come with the program, what does the technology integration look like, and along with that, does the program meet our student data privacy agreement as a district? What kind of customer support did they offer? And all the companies were great. They were amazing to work with. So that was nice. And then finally, we're waiting on some guidance from DESE. They are to give us a list of approved, suggested programs to use in the state of Missouri. As of May 18th, 2023, at 6:46 p.m. was the last time I refreshed it. That guidance was still not there, so we can't wait any longer, so we went ahead with our decision. There were 20, now what we did was we looked up the RFP, so there were requests for proposals that if you go on the website Missouri Buys, you can find the RFPs for different things, and we looked up the RFPs for the programs, and we went through, there's 21 different requirements that the state asks of these programs. So that also factored in. After we go through the student data, I'm going to tell you how that factored into the decision as well. Here's a big reveal. So this was the slide. We were going to have a drum roll and throw confetti. And so, yeah, so benchmark, we collected a lot of qualitative and quantitative data, as Dr. Valter said, and that led us to our decision of Benchmark Advance, which we have 100% confidence in. Next slide, Colin.
All right, so here is a whole lot of information that I'm going to sum up very quickly. We had 2 separate program rubrics. They were designed by taking the rubric from the Reading League to evaluate scientific and evidence-based reading programs. There's also a rubric that is put out by the federal government, by the Department of Education, through What Works Clearinghouse. So we merged those 2 documents into one. And we added in some of our priority standards, share that with the vendors, and ask them to provide evidence. The document that we sent out was about 6 pages long of things that we were looking for. one of the companies sent back a document that was 186 pages long. So it was Benchmark. Several others, they were 90 pages long, 100 pages long. So they all
I just want to
did a lot of work.
I want to tell Dr. Lake that we printed 2 of that one also.
So we looked at each program through multiple lenses. These were based, again, on that What Works Clearinghouse rubric as well as the Reading League's rubric. And as we looked across them, as you can see, this is the K2 rubric. We looked in 4 major domains. Benchmark Advance stood out on all of them. It has explicit and systematic instruction in phonics and phonemic awareness that builds across the years. There is fluency instruction in this program, unlike any I've seen in a program before. It includes reader's theater. It includes progress monitoring tools for students to do repeated readings of passages. We're going to get a little bit later into the background knowledge that it builds for students. There's strategy-based comprehension instruction, and then the writing, composition, and conventions. Not only is there explicit grammar instruction for kids, but they've made it in an authentic context for kids to be able to learn grammar, as well as being able to express themselves authentically. Next slide, please. The 3-5 rubric was similar, but not quite the same. There are some K2 skills that didn't transfer over to grades 3 through 5, so things like phonemic awareness. Students should have very strong phonemic awareness by the middle to end of 2nd grade. So that one is not, you'll see on the 3-5 rubric. The phonics portion transfers over to decoding and word analysis and helping kids understand bigger parts of longer words. So again, we looked across all 3 programs. The vendors were very thorough in providing us evidence and feedback. For Benchmark Advance, it stood out, again, because of that fluency piece. It goes all the way up to 5th grade. Many of the things were the same. They have embedded assessments, which is also true in K2, multimedia resources, as well as inquiry projects that go all the way up from 2nd grade through 5th grade. Next slide, please. We also, in addition to just getting qualitative feedback from teachers, as I said, we had them take a semi-anonymous survey. We don't know who responded what, but there were 2 teachers per grade level per program. So they had the option. There were several domains. We looked at program design, we looked at materials, and we looked at impact. So we didn't need classroom teachers to tell us if their program had phonics. We needed classroom teachers to tell us how that phonics instruction was impacting the students who were in front of them every day. So we looked at the program design, we looked at those materials, we looked at impact. Again, you'll notice Benchmark Advance seemed to rise to the top in both K2 and 3-5. The way that these were scored and weighed out, we asked teachers on each item. There were several items under each domain to answer yes, absolutely, my program has this, somewhat, or no. And we awarded the most points if there was 100% teachers responding yes, and then kind of scaled it down from there to make sure that it was an equal way to look across the programs.
So I'll talk a little bit more about the quantitative data. So I'll start out with kindergarten and 1st grade. You can see the 4 programs that we used in the primary up there at the top. Benchmark is the blue column, and you can see in both kindergarten and 1st grade, Benchmark and CKLA were pretty close together, and then in 1st grade, Super Kids was actually our highest scoring one. Now, I want to explain that these are median growth scores. So we use median rather than mean. Just when my experience of working with central tendencies of data is that median sometimes isn't as influenced by outliers as mean is. So when you have a smaller population of kids that you're collecting data on, and if you have one outlier, whether that's high or low, that can really shift the curve. Or median, it doesn't really shift it as much. So that's why we chose to do median. This is growth. So these are not their end of year scores of what they got, but this is how much growth happened over the school year. So for example, in kindergarten, Benchmark was at 34 percentage points of growth, and CKLA was at 35. And then Super Kids was our lead in 1st grade with 32 points of growth. Next slide, we're on to 2nd grade. Now, 2nd grade, we have 3 different tests. We have A reading, auto reading, and CBM. So A reading is the one that's kind of a comprehensive, everything's going on in there. Auto reading is very specific skills, and CBM is going to be fluency and comprehension. So Once again, you see, benchmark, CKLA very similar, and then you see in the CBM, Super Kids was very successful there in second grade. Next slide is third grade. Third grade is where collaborative classroom came to shine. You can see we have benchmark is still blue. Bookworms was the one we just added this year in red and collaborative classroom there. And third grade had a great success with collaborative classroom, but benchmark was doing well still in that grade level. And then when we get to fourth and fifth on the next slide, now we're pulling NWEA scores. So the previous scores were all from FastBridge, and now we shift over to NWEA. As you can see, benchmark is a clear favorite here in the upper grades as we get to those. Now, before Sarah talks about this slide, so when we looked at all those things, the decision really came down to, do we want benchmark advance for K through 5, or do we want Super Kids in the primary and benchmark in the intermediate? So when we look at everything together, the student data, the teacher data, the program evaluation, the benefits of having one program consistently K through 5 helped us make our decision. And then the one final thing, now we're basing this off the RFP from the state. One of the item, let's see, what item is it? T is the high quality evidence-based instructional materials must have received an all green evaluation by Ed Reports. Super Kids did not. Now that list isn't out yet, but that, kind of put a lot of caution into us in making that decision. So that was, really helped us when we looked at it was nice to have the RFPs of what's coming, and then to be able to pull the Ed Reports ratings really helped us make our decision.
So a quick summary, for those of you who are not familiar with Ed Reports, it is a nonpartisan organization that evaluates year-long programs in reading and math to provide feedback on how well those programs are going to serve students. So as you can see, Benchmark received an all-green rating from Ed Reports, as did CKLA, Bookworms, Collaborative Classroom, and Super Kids unfortunately did not. So as we said with the RFP, at this point in time, we don't know that those will be on Missouri's recommended list. All right, this is the part I'm excited about, to share a lot of the things about Benchmark Advance that are really going to benefit our students. Next slide, Colin, please.
So he's going, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it includes the 5 pillars of reading, which the state, that's one of the criteria the state's going to look at is it must include all these things. So we have phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, writing, and under writing we have grammar. Next to it, we put, this is the image from Benchmark, but you're probably all familiar with Scarborough's rope, which kind of has our foundational reading and then our language processes in there. So they have what I'm calling, and I don't think they call it this, but I'm calling it Scarborough's houseplant. So we have that. Hopefully that'll catch on. Next slide, Colin. So these are some of the awards that it's already, this is a relatively new program as well, because we actually started out with Benchmark Workshop, and they updated their program to Benchmark Advance, which was more tied into the science of reading and letters. So all green on Ed Reports, Tech and Learning Award. We'll talk a little bit about this on a later slide, but it has a lot of digital literacy resources available for our students. And the Excellence in Equity Award, which actually meets items F and P on the state's RFP, if you'd like to look that up later. Next slide is also mine. So standards-based learning, that's a big wheelhouse of mine to talk about standards. So these are the Missouri Learning Standards, and the ones with check boxes, those are priority standards in the state of Missouri. So you can see that the program is going to go through and check off all of our priority standards, and you can see how many times each of those priority standards is going to show up and exactly in what lessons you're going to see those. So we are covering our bases and making sure that we have a program that meets our Missouri Learning Standards and our district priority standards.
Right. One of the other things, and this was a big part of our decision to move from Benchmark Workshop to Benchmark Advance when it was released in the fall, is the Benchmark Advance is aligned with letters. As you may know, our teachers in K-5 are participating. K-3 right now, we're adding on 4 and 5, are participating in letters training. So Benchmark provides an explicit alignment between letters and the program so that they can see how those two fit together. Letters is a professional learning program, so it's not built to go with one specific resource or program. Benchmark has gone that extra mile and aligned their resources with what teachers are learning in that professional development. Next slide, please, Colin. So here's kind of a sneak peek into two of those pieces. The piece on the left is one of the Benchmark Advanced lesson plans, and it is broken down so that teachers can see exactly how it follows a letters lesson plan, with explicit modeling, a clear focus, a thread that runs through phonemic awareness and phonics into a connected text and comprehension activities. And then the portion on the right is too difficult, it's too small to read, but they've taken all of the scope and sequence of letters and aligned where that fits into Benchmark Advance so that teachers will be able to see that clear alignment. This is also one of the pieces I am the most excited about. Benchmark Advance is also a knowledge building program, and it spirals from grade to grade and adds on. So the first unit in every grade level is a life science unit. It starts in kindergarten with just basic life science, and then as kids grow through the grade levels, they will revisit life science every first unit, but the content gets deeper and deeper, so they're building that knowledge from year to year. There are units every year on science and technology, on physical science, on earth science, on economics, on government. So in looking across, not just within ELA, but how we can extend that learning to students across science and social studies, this program is an amazing fit.
If I can add something to that slide real quick. So the units in science go very well with our MySci program, and the social studies is going to be great for us to give teachers resources which they can teach their social studies standards as well, but do it in a cross-curricular lesson, so you're kind of two birds with one stone approach. So it's wonderful to have all these resources for our teachers.
Another piece that will be a new piece for teachers, a benefit for teachers, is there are take-home things to have that homeschool connection inside of every single unit. So on the left is a take-home calendar for fourth graders. There are different domains of activities, so there are some that appeal to students who like to express artistically, some that appeal to, literature. So there's different ideas of things that they can do to strengthen comprehension within a unit. There are family letters that go home with every single unit that explain what students are going to be learning about, both the literacy component and the content area component. And then on the right, you'll see there's a take-home calendar that is meant for first or kindergarten, I believe. And on this one, it teaches parents how to work with their kids on sounding out words and building some of those letter-sound relationships. There's a game that comes with it. And then on the bottom right, the students have their own little magazine for every unit. At the end of the ones in kindergarten and first grade, there is a quick check that teachers can do and mark off the letters and sounds that students know and send that home to parents so that they have that communication in every single unit, which each unit is designed to be 3 weeks long. So that'll be going home about every 3 weeks with our primary students. One of the other pieces that is extremely rich in the program are the assessments that are provided. So in addition to our benchmarking assessments, we have FastBridge, we have NWEA. There are assessments that are built right into the program to help us assess students on a daily basis and then immediately act on those assessments. There are, in a routine building, beginning of the year unit, foundational skills are assessed. There are tools that allow you to assess things like fluency and then to do ongoing progress monitoring within the program. One of the things our intermediate teachers love is there is a little weekly assessment each week that students can take digitally or on paper. And it provides feedback to teachers immediately to support differentiated grouping that very next week when students walk in the door. There are also a bank of assessments that are aligned with standards, and there are multiple versions of each of those. So if we're working on understanding characters, there's a pre-assessment and a post-assessment that is specifically aligned to that standard.
So every good program has resources for differentiation. So whether we want to call it differentiation or responsive teachings for students or for teachers to respond to the needs of their students, or call it personalized learning. This gives us some suggestions. What I like about it is it gives ideas for accommodations that teachers can use with different learners in the classroom. And also looking through the lens of universal design for learning, we want to make sure all lessons are accessible to all of our students. So that coupled with our iPads, I think we can make sure that all students, these lessons are accessible to everyone. And it gives a lot of information on how, just helpful information for teachers to make sure all students can access the lessons they need and respond to their class accordingly. This is kind of more what that looks like in the teacher's guide, and they'll go through. There's even on-the-spot coaching for the teachers if you're not sure what to do with the lesson, and it gives you little hints over there in the margin. And then we put this slide in because, once again, the resources it has here in this teacher's resource system checks off on the RFP specifications H, M, and N for us that were very specific. We wanted to make sure that the program had all those things.
There are also just a multitude of resources that support our multilingual learners. So in each lesson, there is an integration for students who are learning to speak English. Depending on if they are more in maintenance, they know how to speak English pretty well, but they need some support down to moderate, and then a higher level of support. Another really cool feature is there is, when working with vocabulary, there is a resource for students digitally where it will provide the vocabulary words students are learning in English, what that vocabulary word looks like in their home language. There's an audio pronunciation, an example sentence that we'll read to them, and then a visual to go with it to kind of build that vocabulary as well as connecting it to their home language. And then there are several different versions of those family letters I mentioned earlier that are provided in different languages to send home for our multilingual families.
So we had to have the obligatory 4C slide in here. So, well, I saw in the MSBA video that Dr. Jackie has 5 C's. Are we falling behind? So, the program is riddled with the 4 C's. We want to give a couple examples here. So at the end of every unit, there's a research project that students can do, work on speaking and listening. But also this could be, we already talked about the cross-curricular connections, it could easily be tweaked in more of a project-based learning kind of lesson. And then the media literacy, which I referred to earlier, but it goes through a lot of skills for the kids to recognize the different kinds of media and how to use them appropriately.
All right, so our next steps, because we finished a 2-year sprint marathon and now we're at the starting line. So the first piece is that professional learning and training. We will be bringing in benchmark trainers this summer, but we also know our teachers are anxious to see what this new program is all about. So our trainers will come in July and August. We're also going to offer teachers a day in June to come in and just kind of do a meet and greet with the resources, get to know them, kind of start to feel them out. One of the things that's also amazing is there are a ton of complimentary professional learning videos that teachers can access online whenever they want to. So we can use them in a more formal, structured setting as when teachers come in, or if teachers want to go back and watch them again, they have access to those. Another big piece is a coaching aspect. So the instructional design coaches and I have been working on, no matter what program we roll out, what support will teachers need, how will we provide that support to best fit the needs of our students and our teachers. And then just ongoing support throughout the next few years. This will continue with our letters training because they do fit so seamlessly together. And then for any component of the program, there is that on-demand how-to video embedded within the online resources that teachers can access at any point in time.
What questions do you have?
I know, I have a question, but.
Yeah, I do too.
But I saw you had questions, so you
Yeah.
go first, Megan.
Okay, I'll go. Thank you both so much. Can you speak a little bit to how Benchmark differs from what we have now and is therefore an improvement on what we're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first and biggest thing is that it's comprehensive. And so a student right now is going through, they have phonemic awareness, they have phonics, Those are two different programs. They have reading, they have writing. Those are two more different programs. One of the amazing things is that it is all tied so seamlessly together. It is very explicit and very systematic. So one of the things that we know that students will be experiencing is having a phonics lesson in which what they're taught is carried all the way through a text. Sunday has been amazing for the past 3 or 4 years, but one of the things that's been missing is that connected text. So students are learning the phonics skill, but they don't have a text connected to read. Benchmark on a daily basis in primary. Kids are learning a phonemic awareness skill, the phonics skill that goes with it, and then they're immediately reading and writing with that phonics skill. So that's huge. The focus is heavily on decoding, and so that is the primary strategy that kids will use to figure out an unknown word. And so the other big piece is the assessments that come with it, that are tied to that daily instruction, and then also that science and social studies content is huge.
So I want to add on there, the digital resources, we currently don't have anything like that with the other programs we're using. The assessments are one of the things. I did a standards-based learning survey with staff last week, and one of the things that came up is like, I wish we had, some assessments for ELA that were more formative built-in assessments, and this will have that. You mentioned the cross-curricular connections. The parent piece, I don't want to not mention that though, because, being able to send that home, here's what we're working on, here's what you can do with your child at home. So I've been here 22 years, 22, is that right? And we've never had that in ELA in the 22 years I've been here, so.
As you're talking, I'm thinking of like 3 more things. Another piece is the student-facing text. So like I said, the kids have, if you remember, like the weekly readers, it's almost like a little magazine with every unit that's around that content. Students having a text every day to read that's an at-grade level text. They're focused on those science and social studies themes. So not only are kids reading one text on a topic, but they're making connections across multiple texts. And then that media literacy piece is amazing. There are resources in there that we've only dreamed about having something to teach those specific skills.
I just wanted to speak to the that homeschool connection piece. I know that when my kids were in especially early elementary school, that I was like, I want to do this with you at home too. And I get that teachers are going to do it much better than me, but just to have that reinforcement. And so I'm excited that we'll have that for our parents now.
And those magazines, not only does that home menu go home, the magazines are consumable. So those go home with kids at the end of each unit too. So all those texts kids are reading get to go home with the kids.
Were you able to compare the growth with Benchmark compared to the growth in the classes that didn't have any pilots at all?
So we did it, what we did was we compared the programs to the overall population. We didn't have we call them control classrooms, we didn't have them separated, but we compared all of our students versus each of the pilots. So if we go back to Benchmark in kindergarten, 34 points of growth. The controls, so all of the students in the district were 31. 27 in first grade to 33. And then let's see here, in A reading in second grade, it was 30 for Benchmark, 23 for the control, 26 for Benchmark and auto reading. Control was 26 also. 37 for Benchmark on the CBM, and the control was 46. In third grade, Benchmark CBM was 22, control was 27. A reading, Benchmark was 11, control was 10, and auto reading, Benchmark was 6, control was 8. Fourth grade, Benchmark was 9, control was 8. And fifth grade, Benchmark was 9.5, control was 6. So up, down, overall, it was still showing the positive growth we wanted to see.
The one area that it seems like maybe it's not as good as some of the other programs is the CBM. Is there some specific thing that Super Kids did well that the Benchmark doesn't do as well?
The students did have repeated readings in both programs. With the sample size, it's hard to say. Both of them have the fluency component built in. I know the resources that are built into Benchmark are more explicit as far as fluency. So that's a bit of a question mark that we'll focus on in our professional learning next year.
Sorry, does anybody else have any questions? I don't want to hog the mic.
I have a question. So when we saw the calendar to send home to the parents, or the reading pieces for the parents, my thought was, I'm a parent and my child has reading challenges. Is there some type of materials that would come home, or we've been diagnosed with dyslexia, like that, would that look different? Or is there some materials to help the parents at home? And then the teachers have instructional pages as well. Is there something that helps the teachers also?
Yes, so a couple of things, because this is a core Tier 1 program, it has differentiation built in. It is explicit, it is systematic. There is a whole group lesson each day that's at grade level, and that's where those texts come in and those menus come in. But there's also differentiated instruction every day. Decodable texts come with the resources, as well as one of the things that teachers have access to is, even if I'm a 4th grade teacher, I have access to every single grade level's content. So if I need to pull in some of those materials from lower grade levels in order to support a student, I can do that. As well as if I have a student that I need to pull in some higher materials, I have the ability to do that too.
A good thing that textbook companies have evolved to recently is it used to be like when you got it, you would only have, you get the 4th grade material, I get the 5th grade material, and that was it. With the digital resources now, much like iReady, where our teachers have access to everything K through 8, our teachers will have access to everything K through 5. So if they feel like they need to enrich or remediate, they can get into their digital resources and pull out what they need.
Fantastic, and thank everybody for doing this. I know it's been a long project, so thank you.
Piece of cake.
Will there still be flexibility for the teachers? For example, if there's, this is all very prescribed and structured, which is great, but there's going to be some kids who don't follow the program. What if you have a kid who can only learn if he's reading Titanic books? Will there still be some sort of flexibility for the teachers to reach out to that student and try to figure out what that student needs if they're not fitting the program?
Yes.
I won't go into a bunch of details on this, but I had an epiphany early in this process about what teachers need, and everyone needs something different. The great thing about these comprehensive programs and how much they have in the resources, where whether you're a first-year teacher or you're a veteran teacher of 20 plus years, you'll be able to take from it and use the program with integrity, but still be able to respond to the needs of your classroom. And those teachers who, I was more of a math and science guy when I was teaching 5th grade at Truman. So ELA wasn't my wheelhouse. So this would have everything I need, just scripted out for me, lessons designed for me. I just got to get into the materials and use it. But someone who's more adept at literacy, it's like, well, I have to make a few changes here, and it does have the flexibility to do that. So I think the teachers, once they learn it and get used to it, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of them because everything's here for them.
And again, those whole group lessons are around a content. They're targeted at grade level, but students do still have independent reading time each day. Centers in the lower grades, independent reading in the older grades, so they can explore texts of their choosing. As well as, one of the great things is the units are 3 weeks in design, so that kids are being exposed to new and fascinating content every 3 weeks. So they may not know they love to read about government until they get to that unit, and all of a sudden it's their favorite thing.
Did you all survey the student engagement and their response/enjoyment with these different programs?
I can respond to that. Because we were working with elementary students, it's hard to get a global, kids love what they have in their classrooms. What we did is the instructional coaches and I went in, we spent a day in each program just going from classroom to classroom, and we were looking through the lenses of what were we seeing about student engagement? What were the kids doing while we were in there? So it was more of an anecdotal, qualitative sort of feedback. But what we noticed when we were in benchmark classrooms is that the kids were talking, they were having authentic conversations, they were high-level conversations that the kids were having, and the kids were engaged.
Thank you.
And to kind of add to that, you know, the kids were all enjoying whatever, you know, all the programs were great, honestly. And the teachers did too. So I know there's going to be some disappointed teachers out there, but, you know, there were 4 programs we had to say no to. And everyone, I think, really enjoyed the programs that they were piloting and using. But I also think that they'll all, once they get to learn Benchmark, they'll love that one as well.
I noticed, oh, just go.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. That on the rubric for scoring these programs, that there was space for feedback about having like diverse representation of people and experiences in the materials. And so I'm wondering where Benchmark fell in that scoring.
They specifically, they are the only program we looked at that won that equity award. When we had Dr. Mason walk through all the programs with us, that is something that stood out to her. That was her kind of anecdotal feedback. But as we look at the materials, we notice that it not only talks about the contributions of people of different races and backgrounds and ethnicities, but it also authentically embeds people of different appearances, abilities within the texts in a really natural and authentic way. There's actually a document within the resources that we have as teachers that spells out for each and every text in the entire program who is represented, how they are represented, who the author is, all the context around that, which is amazing.
My final question is what's not in here. One of the struggles I had with my own children was the 3 cueing. It was harmful to my children. And so is that system in here at all? Okay.
Just because I'm not familiar with it, the equity award, was that for representing diverse groups okay, so it wasn't like equitable teaching to the students, it was what the Benchmark program represents?
So it was the Authentic Voices Library, the Knowledge Building Text Sets, and Benchmark Advance was recognized by the American Consortium for Equity in Education as the best diversity and inclusion solution. Now, so 2 of the specifications we needed to meet were the high-quality evidence-based instructional materials must be designed to elicit and leverage students' diverse cultural and social backgrounds, and also the quality and complexity of the text, images, graphics, etc. included in the instructional materials must portray various demographics and personal characteristics in a manner that is respectful and accurate and reflects the diversity within the culture. So that's what we were looking for.
I have a question about the Missouri recommended list. Do they have a projected date of when they're releasing that, or is it just kind of whenever they get around to it?
No later than April 30th, 2023.
May 30th. Okay.
April.
Oh, April.
April 30th.
Oh, great. Okay. That's helpful.
Yes.
I'll just share, I was concerned about that, and Dr. Sparks clarified for me that it's not a requirement.
Right, it's a recommendation.
It's just a recommendation.
Yes.
So it's different than the assessments that they released in late April, where those are mandated by law, Senate Bill 681. These are suggested materials. And if a student, one of the other things in the Senate bill was the reading success plans. And if a student has a reading success plan and you need to do some tier 2 intervention with them if they've fallen behind, our tier 1 meets all those. Benchmark Advance meets all that. If you did not adopt a program that meets these, a district's going to be looking for something else then.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Valter and Dr. Hamby.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. And thank you to all of our teachers who have been working so hard on this the past 2 years also. So to remind everyone, we have a motion by Andrew and seconded by Christy to approve the adoption and purchase of Benchmark Advance for ELL grades K through 5. If there are any more questions, then we'll move to our vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We will move on to 11.01 for the record. We have two this evening. The Board of Education Agenda Planner, this is a first reading, and the Comprehensive Student Improvement Plan, CSIP, which is also a first reading. You can review these items prior to the next meeting where they will be brought back requesting approval. In 11.02, there are no items. 11.03, Policy Review, first reading of policies BDDB, BDDH, IGCD, IGCDA, JECA, and KC. Dr. McKinney, I think you have a few things to
Yeah, thank
speak
you.
on
I
those
just wanted to
policies.
highlight two of the policies tonight. BDDH and KC both deal with the board's engagement with the community and public. So as you are aware, I know that you've heard about this, the legislature has put forward a new state law that requires all Missouri public schools to include a process and board policy that allows any resident of the school district to have an item placed on the agenda. The intention of this law was to increase community engagement with boards that didn't have public comment for non-agenda issues. Thankfully, Lindbergh already provides this opportunity to the public, but this new policy does change our practice, and it will align it to the current law. So the new process basically will take the place of the public comment on non-agenda items. The public comment on agenda items will remain unchanged. Once the policy is adopted, and that is required by law on July 1st, residents wishing to engage the board will be required to first write a letter to the superintendent or designee and request a meeting with administration to discuss the issue. And Beth, do you want to talk at all about kind of the process for the intake of that? And then I'll kind of finish up about how it will look at the end. So
Sure.
We've got with any process, there comes procedures. So there will be some procedures that Beth and Andrea have worked on to intake public comment and make sure that it gets to the people it needs to get to, and then that process moves forward. And then I'll kind of talk about next steps.
So once that request is made, then the superintendent or designee will either meet with the person who's made the request. They have the right to waive the meeting as well, but either way, that would happen within 20 days. If the resident is not satisfied with the resolution of that meeting, then they can request in writing to put the agenda item on the next board agenda. That request needs to be made 5 business days in advance of the next regular meeting. So Andrea and I have worked together to create that procedure so that it's available for our community, put together a form where they can make the request, and then we'll update our website following implementation of the policy to make sure that everyone is aware. We're also working to update our board agendas and our signage here in the board meeting, so everyone understands the new procedure that is required by the new law.
As I mentioned, the Lindbergh Board of Education already provides an opportunity for the public to comment on non-agenda issues. However, we are optimistic that this new process will be an improvement on our current system because now patrons can write the board, a process is in place, they will have dialogue with administration over that 20 days, and our optimistic assumption here is that a lot of things will be resolved in even a better and more comprehensive way than when someone just comes up and speaks for 3 minutes. So hopefully, that's our hope, and we're optimistic that will happen. This policy presented tonight is a first reading. It will be available for public viewing on board docs. We will bring it back for a final adoption in June, required by law. And any residents who wish to provide input about the policy may do so by writing the superintendent, the cabinet, or the board prior to the June meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
So just to make sure I have it clear in my head. So we'll only have one space in our meetings for public comment.
Correct.
And it can only be on agenda items, whether it's an item that has been put on the agenda by the board or put on the agenda by a resident.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If you have any questions between now and the next meeting, if you've had some time to think about it, please reach out. Happy to work with you on those.
Thank you. And as Dr. McKinney said, we will, these items will be brought back next month for approval, so. We'll move to 12.0, citizen communication regarding non-agenda items. We have one this evening. Andel Moore. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Oh, my goodness, sorry about that. Andy Moore.
And then if you gotta push that there.
Thank you.
Good evening. I've been asked to share a little bit about a need for more counselors at LHS. While my focus is on the high school, my story and plea apply to all of our schools and students. There are statistics that you can go look up as far as student to counselor ratio. I implore you to go look that up. I didn't want to lose my time. Our blended family has 4 children, all within the Lindbergh School District. 3 of them are at the high school. All 3 of them have visited the counselor's office on numerous occasions, and all 3 have left at some point because there wasn't enough staff to speak with them. They were, however, provided a safe place to sit for a while. While we're greatly appreciative of this space provided, the lack of staff to sit with them for even 5 minutes has resulted in disappointment and calls to us where we have had to help them work through fears, anxieties, frustrations, screams, and tears. Sometimes these calls are before they even went to the counselors, because why? Why would they go if there's a chance they won't be seen or heard? While I'm grateful our children do call us because we strive to make ourselves available, a consistent opportunity to have access to the professional services of school counselors would benefit them in a more advantageous manner. My 2 oldest are seniors this year, so as you can imagine, a lot of very exciting and very scary things are happening at our house. While all 3 of our high schoolers have visited the counselor's office, I want to talk about my oldest. He is actually here with me tonight, and he's been at the Lindbergh School District since 7th grade. He and his brothers have gone through parents divorcing, moving households, leaving friends that they've known since kindergarten, starting new schools, trying to make new friends, being bullied, and watching their parents remarry. Oh, and do not forget the pandemic and the ever-increasing presence of social media. He's my check-the-box kiddo. Depression, check. Debilitating anxiety, check. Low self-esteem, socially awkward, worrier, transgender, check, 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 check. As you can imagine, he struggles. We struggle. Any one of those things I listed is a reason he visits the counselor's office. Thankfully, he does open up and wants to talk, but not everyone does. Nevertheless, every day is a battle for him, and daily my heart breaks. Yes, he sees mental health and medical professionals. At the same time, we have no doubt a few of his teachers and counselors have played a vital role in keeping one of them, or keeping him alive. One of them is here tonight. I do not say this for shock value. This is the simple truth. When we can, we let them know how much we appreciate them. There are days we have forced him to go to school in tears merely to stay safe for himself. If any of you have had a loved one who suffers, you know this is the greatest fear of a parent. While more counselors are needed, they are not needed solely for students who struggle with life. They are also there to guide our students in life and their futures. They are needed to provide insight to the students about what is to come after graduation and what opportunities exist. So many students are lost, ours included. We implore you to provide more resources to our students so that they may excel in life and have a future they actually look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking this evening. Recess. As we already conducted our executive session, there is no need, and we will move to 15.0 adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn board meeting 1575?
So moved.
Motion by Megan,
Second.
second by Matt. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Board meeting 1575 is adjourned.